I like to be at home with my friends. Yes, I love racing. The talk was always about racing. The talk was about the next thing, this, that, and the other. But I also had my own group of people that were my close friends that I could probably count on one hand that kept me normal. And I wanted to be normal, where, I see the riders now, I'm not saying anything bad about them. I like a lot of my friends, but they love the image. They love the everything that goes with it, and I didn't. And I think that it was not a conscious decision. That was just me. And you either accept it or you don't, and I don't care. I don't mean that bad, but unless my close group of friends or my family, my wife, my daughter, they didn't like it, or I was doing something, I would only listen to them, because that's all that matters to me,
Hello there, welcome to MotoGP's podcast, Last on the Brakes. Never actually called it that before, but that was kind of weird. Never mind.
We're off topic.
We're off topic
script
already. Hello, my name's Matt Dunn. Alongside me is Fran Wild, and today you're going to be hearing a podcast from someone we actually did not expect to ever get a podcast with after he left last year, because it's Cal Crutchlow, and he's actually riding. Well, he's rode more races this year than he certainly ever anticipated doing again, even more so than that, didn't he? But
Yeah.
we got Cal finally on the show to talk about his perspectives on various things, such as the state of racing right now, how he came through from the World Superbike paddock, whether he thinks that transition from Superbikes to MotoGP can happen again. And of course,
stop rack.
Yeah, hashtag stop rack. And of course, it's Cal Crutchlow. Some of you who might know of us and me, I had to ask him about cycling. So we did. We had a conversation about cycling as well. Some exclusives in there for you, which I don't think it's actually...
as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good generic conversation.
It was. It's something for everyone, I think. And especially, I think it's good as well. Obviously, Cal, known for kind of being outspoken, but not in the way that you maybe would expect if someone describes someone as outspoken.
Yeah.
Just kind of honest,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what you can expect again in this episode, I think. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's nice as well with some of the quotes to get to see, if you're watching on YouTube, or hear in his voice the kind of lighter tone where he says some stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
If we made an article written down about how he doesn't care really what people think of him, that might come across as a little bit too brazen and direct.
But it's the
but it's
absolute
not.
positive way
Yeah,
of
exactly.
how everyone's told nowadays, don't just scroll through Instagram and think that's how you got to be. It doesn't matter so much.
Exactly.
Be yourself.
And you guys
So,
know us. We love a bit of sports psychology and this and that. And we were just saying before actually starting doing the intro and outro, the interesting things about a lot of what Cal says is actually if you took now a textbook of what are like best practices for a sports star to remain focused and relaxed to be able to compete at their optimal kind of performance, well, it sounds like a lot of the stuff he does there is exactly in that textbook and it's innate to him, which is just pretty extraordinary, to be honest.
It's pretty cool. I definitely enjoyed this chat a lot. Hopefully you all will enjoy listening to it as well. And yeah, what's the question of the week this week?
With Cal Crutchlow, question of the week. Oh,
How hard do you find it to filter out other people's opinions?
have we done anything like that before? I don't think we have. No, and that is what I was going to jump to as well. I think if someone gives you a comment on Twitter, something a bit of abuse. Yeah, that's right. We've seen some of your comments.
I'm just
does it
crying
get
on
to you?
the
Does it ruin your
inside.
day, or do you? Yeah, it's actually Fran with a few burner accounts giving me crap, or it's a family member, or a so-called friend of mine. Does it? Do you let it ruin your day? Do you not? Personally, I had to dive in starting commentary 2018 and just not care at all, and I've managed to stick by that. A couple of people I will respond to ask if they're just making a deranged torrent of abuse with no actual basis to it. I will ask them hi, what is it that I actually did that you don't like? Because I'm genuinely want to know if someone's just swearing at you, well, why do they think that? And then more often than not, they then reply with, oh, I didn't think you'd reply. Oh, actually, I think you're kind of cool. Cheers, bye. And you're like, well, why did you say it in the first place?
Yeah,
then?
it is a thing, isn't it? It's quite a hot topic at the moment with social media.
Yeah.
It's like people are real on the end of their handles.
Yeah, exactly.
Plenty of people, though, probably not so much and not really doing their own admin. So,
Yeah.
it's easy to forget that as well and be like, oh, this has really annoyed me in this episode of whatever you're watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting one, I think.
I mean, obviously the main comments we get at the moment is take off the masks.
Yeah.
Guys, it's protocol.
But
What about you?
I think we're getting a special guest.
Are you going to come and join us, Fabio?
You look tempted, no?
This is 1 year on from when we actually had him on the
Yeah, it
podcast
is.
So
before.
how do you start the podcast?
Like this right now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay then, good cameo. On that, we'll stop yakking and we'll head over then to us speaking to Cal.
Cal, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Got to ask, I know you would have been asked it a lot over the last few races, but did you actually really expect to come back and race after last year?
No, not really. Not for as many races as what I have been racing. But the thing was, if you look in general over a season, between 4 riders in a manufacturer, normally one of them gets injured at one point. So I sort of expected it, but maybe not for this long, or the situation that has arose as such. So yeah, it's good to be back though. It's nice to ride. I would prefer to just test, but any time on the Yamaha is good. Obviously, I had such a limited year of the amount of testing. It was decided that I would come and race these races. I actually declined to race the first one,
Did you?
which Garrett did, because I thought Franco would be back straight away and I'd go testing. But the testings got cancelled, so then I came in. So it was a good opportunity. It was nice to be able to get back on the bike, and we're here in Aragon, which is maybe my last one.
Maybe. Although I don't think we're going to get much spoiler out of that, because this will probably be published later than being able to clickbait anyone with that. Well, right, so rewinding then massively from now, when you're little Cal, how do you first end up on a motorbike? How do you first start riding, or who got you into it? What's the first time you remember sitting on one, and what piqued your interest?
Not really a massive story, you know, not like a lot of the Spanish guys here, or a lot of the kids that grew up with a golden spoon, that kind of thing. You know, with rich parents or stuff like that got them into it, or paid their way into it. It was a little bit of a different story. That I played football for years, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a footballer. But my dad was racing as a privateer, and in the UK, which, you know, in Britain, which was just club racing. So I always just go since I was really young anyway. We had a little Pee-wee 50, so I already sort of knew how to ride that, but I can't remember suddenly sitting on the bike for the first time. And
it wasn't like the grand origin story.
Yeah.
Where
all these stories that you'll be getting off everyone else, that sure they can't remember either, but they'll give you the best story. Obviously I remember having a little Pee-wee, but I can't remember when it was or anything like that. But I knew I enjoyed to ride. I enjoyed to play around. Obviously, when I went to the circuit with my dad racing, we used to take the Pee-wee there and ride around. But then I went and played football, and I had no care for motorcycles at all. Of course, I still went with my dad. I still rode around the paddock mentally, you know, like just mad, just hammering around, doing stupid things. And I can remember one time in Le Mans, my dad was racing a 24-hour race actually, and I dropped the scooter on my leg. Oh, honestly, it's burnt my leg to pieces. I just remember the blisters on it.
Still got scars now?
No, I haven't, but well, I suppose if I looked where it was. But, I've got many scars since then. But yeah, and then I didn't care. So about 12 years old, I'd never ridden a geared motorcycle ever. Just still, you know, because I was playing football, I didn't ride, I just rode a scooter. So at 12 years old, I still never rode a geared motorcycle, and some of my friends was racing. So I said to my dad, "Oh, I wouldn't mind a go at it." Now, one of my dad's close friends, John Hackett, who his son Rick Hackett, who's been one of my best friends, you know, for my whole life since I grew up. Rick was racing, so my dad spoke to John and says, "Can you ever go on the bike?" And we ended up buying the bike, even though I'd never even ridden a motorcycle ever. And there was a race. There was a race the next weekend at Darley Moor. Bearing in mind, I still hadn't ridden a motorcycle. So my dad was busy doing something, so I went with one of his friends to a field on a motocross bike. Jumped on this motocross bike, set off, learned how to go. Great, I can ride. 10 minutes later, I've looped out the back of it because it was a 250 two-stroke motocross bike, and I just flipped straight off the back, landed on my head. The guy thought I was knocked out. Rings my dad, and anyway, the next weekend I went to Darley Moor and rode. And I also crashed on my first lap around the track.
Really?
My dad got the bike. He says, maybe this is not for you.
That's
and
so funny.
Since then, it just carried on where I enjoyed to ride. My dad obviously paid for me to ride, which was not easy as such, but he always worked hard, and I was able to sort of follow my dream from that. We went racing. I managed to be good enough to get some sponsors, and we just did it like that. So it was the perfect scenario.
See, that's a good origin story now.
Yeah.
It might not be the mythical Christmas morning and then this,
No,
but
no. It was nice. I'm not saying we had it hard, but I mean, it was not, it was not like I went and rode for a team, or suddenly I had a rich family or something like that. It wasn't like that. It was just perfect, to be honest. Just how I would have done it. But I came into racing really late because I started when I was 13, which is late. You see the kids now, they're racing at this big. So I didn't race motocross. I didn't do anything like that when I was a kid. Hence the reason why I can't ride a motocross bike, to save my life. But so that was it. That's how I got in.
That origin story is really funny because I think it's always that's why we like asking this to everybody, because I think some of the listeners expect the sort of story to be, I stepped on the bike for the first time, the blip of the throttle, I felt something inside, I won my first race, and it was all like there. But actually, I think it might have been Taka when we asked him, and his parents said the same thing after his first race. He went back and they just went, I don't think this is for you, maybe we should go karting or something like that. But
maybe they can remember it. Maybe I'm just older and I can't remember it. But
maybe
that motocross loop off the back just deleted.
I can remember that. But when the first time I ever rode a motorcycle, I have no idea. I was 2 or 3 years old or something. So
I know what you mean. I always wonder about this because I can't remember. I have like 3 memories from before I'm 8 or 9.
I think they're filling you full of it for the romance story.
Gotta be. So we'll skip ahead a little bit because like the British fans listening, we know you did like the R6 Cup, British Supersport, Superbike, World Supersport champion, and things like that. But obviously, the main thing about you is you made that transition from Superbike to MotoGP. Want to ask you, to throw about, what was that initial taking that decision to do that like? Was it an absolute no-brainer, or was it because some of the stories coming out at the moment about Toprak or whoever from Superbikes, it is a bit of clearly there is more of a choice at the moment, but what was it like for you back then?
Yeah, but I think Toprak's a very different and special talent, so don't take that out of the context already. I think he has the chance to come here, and he will come here in the end. He's very talented and very different on a motorcycle to the other guys around him, so I think he'll fit in here, and I think he will be.
So you think he should be
right
here?
At the front here? Yeah, I think he's made the wrong decision, but the way that it'll work out, he'll be here, I think, at some point. So in the end, I think he should have come now. That's my opinion, but he'll be here after that. I'm absolutely sure of it. So whether he comes a year later, great. But it's not easy to do. That story, I think he's young enough and in the right moment to be able to do that. But if you're talking about when I did it, it was a completely different scenario. I wanted to get to the best championship in the world as soon as possible, and that was it. And I took the opportunity because I was doing well in World Superbike. Hervé, and Yamaha took a big gamble on me because, as we know, at the end of the first year, it's been well documented, I wanted to go back to Superbike because it was tough, really, really tough. I think it was really tough for me because the 800s, a completely different way of riding, and I was not comfortable riding the 800s. Then went to the 1000 the year after, and I was immediately 4th at the first test, at the test after Valencia, 4th in the pre-season test, 4th in the race in Qatar. So already I'd made that transition because it was just a bigger bike, and I was able to ride it a little bit more like a superbike, where the 800 was robotic and really difficult for me to understand, coming from a superbike where you have to manage a lot of things. So yeah, I did it. I think in my career that has been one of the best things that I've had about me. I can read a situation very well with regards to what is best to do for me and my career.
Yeah.
Because I bounced championships like you wouldn't believe. I went British Super Sport, British Superbike, World Super Sport, World Superbike, MotoGP, 5 years.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah,
And,
it's true, actually.
and
When you
then,
say
and
like
then
that,
I've been
it's
here,
like-
you know, and then I've been here. But even after that, the way that I did my career with the teams that I selected and picked was just right for me, you know. Yes, I went to Ducati and I left a year early in my contract, but there was always a big deal made out of that. But that was me and Ducati both being clever, because they signed Andrea Iannone to a 2-year agreement, and in his 2nd year agreement he was going to the factory team.
Right.
They re-signed Dovizioso, so if I stayed for the 2nd year, the 3rd year I would have never been in the factory team anyway.
Right.
So
Dodged a bullet, really.
so then I left because I had a 3-year agreement with Honda on the table.
Uh-huh.
You know, and that was the way that it worked out. But I did that because it was either have 1 more year at Ducati or 1 year with Honda and another 2. It was easy.
Yeah.
It was an easy choice. So I believe that I did everything very well in that sense, and that's what kept me in MotoGP for such a long time. And then obviously it worked very well with Honda, where I was in a satellite team. I was a factory rider in the satellite team, and I stayed there for ages. But the Superbike to MotoGP route is not as hard as what people think. I think that first year was very difficult for me, but a different situation to what it would be now.
Yeah.
You know, I think the tyres, the Michelin tyres, are maybe closer than what the Bridgestones were to the Pirellis of Superbike. You know, so I don't think that jump would be as bad. So yeah, it's a hard one. I would like to see World Superbike have a championship of prototype bikes in it. I know it's Superbike, so we know that, but like a feeder to MotoGP, you know.
Right.
Obviously we've got Moto3 and Moto2, but maybe something a little different. I don't know how it could work, I don't know anything, but try to filter some of these guys across, because there's some great talent there, you know. And we only ever look to these paddock, and this year we found ourselves in a situation where there's MotoGP seats available and nobody to go on them from a Moto2 championship. Now that's strange, because we've got everybody.
Right.
They took Remy, they took Raul, you know, they took Fabio, DG, and who else is coming? Someone else.
Well, it's expected that like Bez is expected to move up.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you know, everyone's sort of gone. Now there's 2 seats.
Yeah.
There was 2 seats sat there. You know.
It's quite a strange situation.
So
isn't it?
we need to look everywhere.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the Superbike's a great championship. It's where I came from. I only did a year, but you know, maybe I was just clever to do that year and get out.
I even think at the moment with Moto2, there's some really capable Moto2 guys who, for whatever reason, circumstances, missing the year, who could be MotoGP potential. Well, actually, there's room for them like to go across to Superbikes. I think they could do great things over there, like Locatelli.
But then
for
everyone's
example.
quite nervous of doing that in case they can't come back, because there is missing that kind of link, or I don't know,
you know,
it's
but you've got to. I think you've got to look that the depth of field here is 10 times harder than there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality. There are great riders over there, but I don't believe MotoGP riders get on so well with the Superbike, where the other way around, it might, you know, it's a difficult one. Some MotoGP riders go back to Superbike and feel fantastic, but we see the case of Tito at the minute. This guy is a good rider. He's won Moto2 world titles, and now he can't even ride around within 3 seconds of the guys in World Superbike. Now, if you put him back in on a MotoGP bike, he's actually quite fast. It's just his situation's completely different. You can never compare the two. You can never compare the riders. You can't compare the lap times. It's impossible. It doesn't work like that. So I was just grateful that was my feeder zone into here, and also Ben Spies and Colin and Troy. You know, it's definitely worked for some riders, but the main way to go about it is Moto 3 and Moto 2.
Okay. So moving back to when you've arrived here, then you said that first year obviously was a bit tougher. From that first tough year, when you say you wanted to go back to Superbike, you're like, oh, not kind of going the way you'd expected it. Obviously, you won 3 Grand Prix. Quite an ascent through, lots of different teams, manufacturers, everything else. What did it take to get yourself from that, oh, I want to go back to Superbike, to top of the world 3 times as well?
Yeah, but if you look over a 10-year period, 3 times is not really that much, but there's nobody else in...
There's plenty of people who never did it.
Yes, and also British riders that have came here, or British riders that haven't came here, that are never going to get the opportunity to do it. And I feel very privileged to have been able to be that one, because I think that I worked the hardest. I think that I put the effort in, I took the gamble at the right time, and I took that chance that was in front of me. Instead of being happy in a different championship and just sit there and say, okay, well, I'm getting paid a fortune. Great. Well, okay, you take a year's pay cut, come here, and then you have a great career here that, you know, it way surpasses what you would have had in World Superbike. So it took that dedication there, you know, of saying, okay, maybe for a couple of years or a year, I'm going to struggle. It's going to be hard. I was not easy to live with, that's sure. You know, obviously Lucy, we were not married at that time, but I'm sure I wasn't easy to live with. But I never gave up on the situation or the dream to make it to the front, you know, of MotoGP. And I think that I had a good balance of being at home and being here, and that was when I retired, that I don't miss it. I don't miss it like I don't miss the stress, the talking to you. You know, that's you know, I don't miss I don't miss sitting on the grid. I miss riding a motorcycle because that's what I love, and I miss competing. Actually, you know, I like to get that fire in my belly a little bit, but I don't miss the traveling, this kind of stuff. So that's why I always had such a different way at looking at it than a lot of the other riders, and that was why I believe over my career some people saw me as arrogant, some people saw it as me being me, and some people liked it the way that I was. It's because I always told the truth, and if I felt it, then I told it, and I don't care if you like it or not. It does not make a bit of difference to me in my home life whether anybody likes it or not. Because when I go home, I do my own thing, and I'm happy with Luz and my family. So everything here is like to me a show. I love racing motorcycles, but I always had that great balance, I believe. So I think that's what kept me racing for not so long, but you know, a 10-year career in MotoGP, and it kept me kept my sponsors happy because I was always getting the promotion, whether it was good or bad. I was okay at my job. I don't think I was the best talent out there, definitely not, but I would dig in. That was my thing, is I would absolutely dig in to the point where I probably should have finished 50% more of the races than what I did. You know, the races that I crashed out of, 50% of them I shouldn't have crashed out of them. I should have finished the race, but that was me. I was given 100%, and I would go over the 100%, my 100%, and that was it. You know, I'd go over my level of talent and crash, but I wouldn't change it. I changed some of the aches and pains that I have now, but I mean,
you can still cycle, so it's fine.
At the minute, I can tell you now, the aches and pains are coming on the bicycle as well. But yeah, it was just a lot of hard work, you know. I think that I was never a guy to take it too seriously, because as I said, I saw it as a show, you know. And yes, there's always a lot of people doing stuff for me, working hard for me, the mechanics I've worked with and people I've worked with in this paddock, you know. I'm very, very lucky that I believe that I don't know anybody I've worked with that has a bad word to say about me in my team. Media might be different, but you know, I think that
I'm not sure that counts as working with, to be fair.
Which is great, because I always tried to make it a home away from home, fun, enjoyable, because they're away from their families for me, and that's the reality. Yes, it's their job, but I mean, some of these guys don't want to be away for 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time, a week here, a week there. You know, they've got kids in school. It's difficult. It's not an easy job. And I never found it easy, so I can imagine them, you know. And at that point, I didn't have a family, so I believe that I just had that perfect balance to race here, you know.
It's really interesting you say that, because obviously the other really high profile case of thinking all of that side of it is just not real and hating it so much to the point of retiring at the age of 27, Casey, he obviously, that home life was so important to him, went to that and everything, but it seems like the opposite kind of approach to the same belief, that the real thing is at home, but you kind of use that as something to keep you here longer and fuel you here in the other side of it.
Yeah, but it was. I think it's
obviously everyone's different. It's just interesting to get.
I think Casey got it right, honestly speaking, because I could have stopped earlier. I didn't stop because I still enjoyed it. But when you stop enjoying it, I think it's the right time to stop. So I do think Casey did it right, and I think that, of course, it's been a big part of his life since he was so young. If he didn't want to do it anymore, then stop. But as I said, this place is a circus, you know, and you're the performing monkey, and that's the truth. And I don't care what anybody says. That's the way that that's the way I feel. Of course, a lot of the other riders feel it's completely normal, and that's them, and they enjoy it, and you know, and that's it. So I believe that he made the right decision for him. I think that I stayed obviously longer, completely different careers. He'd achieved way more than what I achieved in my career, so I wanted to try and achieve a little bit more, and that's why I stayed until I was 35 years old.
Something I want to pick up from there is that the work-life balance. Was that a conscious decision you made at some point on your very rapid ascension through the championships, or is it just come naturally to you? The work-life balance. Because I could see through it. A lot of people can't see through this. They can't see through this. They can't see through anything else. I like to be at home with my friends. Yes, I love racing. The talk was always about racing. The talk was about the next thing, this, that, and the other. But I also had my own group of people that were my close friends that I could probably count on one hand that kept me normal. Yeah. And I wanted to be normal, you know, where, you know, I see the riders now, I'm not saying anything bad about them. I like a lot of them, a lot of my friends, but they love the image. They love the everything that goes with it, you know, and I didn't. Right. And I think that it was not a conscious decision. That was just me, and you either accept it or you don't, and I don't care. I don't mean that bad, but unless fine. My close group of friends or my family, my wife, my daughter, they didn't like it, you know, or I was doing something, I would only listen to them, because that's all that matters to me, you know.
That sounds like very good advice for a lot of other people in so many walks of life, though, not even just here.
Yeah, but you know, I think that
people who you know have got your back.
Yeah, you know, I think that no matter what somebody's going to say about you as a rider, as a person, whether they're fans or whatever, of course I always treated the fans with as much respect as I could, and I did, and you know, but at the end of the day, they might support someone else, they might say something bad about you, and that I couldn't care less, because they don't know me. They don't come and eat dinner at my house and have the conversations with my family, and so they don't know me at all. Same as what I don't know them. So, you know, that sort of stuff to me, I didn't care. I had one point in my career where I did, and it was probably right at the start of my MotoGP career, the first year when I was doing really bad. Because obviously everybody didn't expect me to do anything, and I didn't do anything. And then I was copping it a little bit, and I was like, you know, but then after that, I didn't care. You know, it was not, I worked out that it makes not a shit of difference to my life what somebody else says, unless people around me. So I think that I balanced it right, and I think that was why I had either such a close relationship with the fans, that I was the guy that was closest to them, or I was the complete opposite, where they thought I was arrogant for it. You know, because the fans either want that, they either want you to be the guy that is a normal guy at home and goes to Tesco's and says what he feels, or they want you to be the superstar that they all look up to, that posts amazing things, and you know, so it's just the way it is.
I think you managed to get a balance of both though, because like you're the man at home, the human being before the motorcycle racer, but then also you do cool things like going up to the camera in Argentina going, "Don't doubt me," to the camera, and stuff like that is kind of superstar kind of stuff. It's not the image, but then it's genuinely you, it's authentic, and I think you managed to achieve both.
Yeah, that image was for you though.
Just for me?
For this circus that we're in, you know.
Yeah, right.
So,
I get that.
Because I'd rather race with no cameras there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reality.
Fair.
I loved that. When I was young, I used to do it in the back of a van and friends and this, that, and the other, and that's what I love. And I wished I raced in the era of, you know, the 80s, the early 90s, stuff like that, where they were racing with the vans, and that was my era.
You can still ride a Ducati here if you wanted, like Zarco did. Something a bit different.
Yeah, bit different.
No, okay, fair enough. I'll tell you what, before we let you go though, I do have to ask you a little bit about cycling. This is more a bit about me. I'm a big cycling fan and things like that, and there's always been a couple of things I've wanted to ask you. First and foremost, when did it start? And then secondly, do you care about, when you're training with cycling, do you care about numbers? Are you obsessed with the data, or do you just go out and have fun and race your mates a little bit?
A little bit of both, but when it started was, I always rode my bike. I used to run. When I played football, I was centre forward, so I sprinted to get the ball, kick the ball, and that was me done. I was happy, you know. When I was in school, I used to do the 100-metre sprint, because I'm built like a sprinter, you know. But then I needed to start to do some endurance for races, so I started to run. And then I had bike problems with my knees. I'd already had a couple of operations from football on my knees. So then cycling came into it probably in 2002, 3, 4.
Oh, a long time then.
And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow.
But my main was when I went and first started to live in the Isle of Man. I was riding a little bit before that, 2006, 7 and 8, quite a lot more.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the Isle of Man, was 2009. And I started to ride actually with a guy that you will have met here, Andy Roach, who used to be my assistant here. We lived a couple of doors away from me, and he was a professional at the time. So then, riding around the Isle of Man. Then there's a lot of groups, a lot of pros, and I've been riding ever since. So to the extent where, I'll probably get 20 to 25,000 kilometers a year. And at a high level, people say that I ride too hard all the time, but that's just me. I'm either in or I'm not in. But yeah, I ride a lot. I do ride a lot.
You must really truly enjoy it.
Yeah,
as well as
because I don't see it as a chore, which is I'll go out in the rain. If it's hammering down with rain and a complete twister, I'll go out, and people will be like, why? But I enjoy to. I think it's two things. I think it's about me releasing my endorphins. I was always stupid sometimes, as in, and when I was racing, I was always overtrained. But that was just me. I was doing 20 hours a week in between the two races, and I knew I was, but I loved what I was doing, and I felt satisfaction out of hurting myself on the bike, and I've always been that way. And I would never leave the house on a bicycle unless I was doing 3 hours minimum. So
that's a rule, right.
it's just the way that I work. Now, another way that I've been, and I know I've been, yes, obsessed with numbers. Not obsessed with numbers, but I use my power meter. I always ride to power.
Right.
Not always, but what I have done for my career is I know I've always been borderline OCD with numbers.
Yeah.
Because I would never enter the house until I'd done the certain number that I needed to do.
Really?
As in, if I said I was doing 3 hours, I would never enter the house at 2 hours 50 minutes, or I would never enter the house at 2:59. But if I did 3:01,
Yeah. It's fine.
it was fine. If I did over 3:30, it meant I had to go to 4 hours.
Wow. Okay.
So I was a bit.
Yeah.
But if you actually think about it in a rider's head, my whole life has been about numbers.
Yeah.
Lap time, the amount of laps you do, the sector numbers.
Yeah.
So I must have picked it up from that over the years.
Uh-huh.
But if I said I was going out to do that, I
Yeah.
had to do it, and that was it.
And that has terrible consequences for someone like Daco as well, if he's not ready for that sort of mileage that day.
You just have to
wherever
ride
else.
home,
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll ride around in circles.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm usually quite good at planning a route of
Right.
how fast I'll be going over the route, of how much ascent or something like that, to see what I get, as in the time wise.
I was gonna say, have you ever like arrived home and been at like 2:59 and then just like
Every day of
done
my
a
life
few
sometimes.
more
Wow.
just outside the house?
Easy, up and down the street a little bit, or
That's so
I
funny.
will not go in, honestly.
Wow.
But it's just the way that I worked, and I actually thought when I stopped racing I would be the same.
Okay,
I have gone in at like 2:48
Oh.
or 3:48 or something like that.
Yeah.
Since I've stopped racing, but I find it hard to take for the rest of the day.
I was gonna say how.
It's
how
just
is that?
like, I don't know. It must just be me, and I think that it's came over the years of training, being committed.
Yeah.
Another thing is I have to do the hours that I've planned that week.
Really?
So if it's 18 hours, I have to do 18 hours, and I won't.
Yeah.
I'll go on the turbo at night to do an hour if I have to make it up or something like
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
I don't mind going over, but I have to do the minimum that
That's
I've
funny.
said.
You make your own training plan?
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
But I don't do anything else. I haven't been to a gym in
Yeah.
at least 12 years.
See, it's the difference.
Having
I've
a
not been
push-
to a gym either.
Having a
Look at my
push up,
arms.
pull up, nothing.
Wow.
So, not a thing.
But your arms are so huge.
I know, but it's just my body type. So,
Just naturally hence.
I just like to ride my bicycle, and that's it.
That's good. It's really interesting. So many things you've said. I think like actually.
I'm
now,
just different to everyone else. Now,
Well, you say that, but I listen to a few like sports psychology podcasts and things like that, and I've read some studies lately on things that they tell people to do, like have a life outside of the sport because it'll make you go faster and things like this. Like do it for you, have the human side, but that it's interesting. Those things all have come quite natural to you. Yeah, this is what the advice is being given to other elite sports. That's it's really interesting.
Yeah. I think that you got to look from a perspective. When I was looking in this paddock, and even when I was 3-4 years in, I used to think they were all absolutely mental. None of them had girlfriends. None of them, well, they did. They had many girlfriends, but like never held anything down. None of them married. None of them kids.
Yeah.
It was a strange situation that they believe. Honestly, a lot of the riders believe that the way they're doing it is the only way to go fast. When I look at it and think you're doing it completely wrong, you need to relax,
Yeah.
have some
Yeah.
difference in your life,
We were just talking about that right before you turned up.
I think that some of the stories I could tell you about this paddock, it would be
Well, I'll say for your autobiography
fantastic.
in
No,
5-10 years
do you want to
time.
say I'm just reading John's
Yeah.
actually, and he's telling us some home truths right there.
Yeah.
And I think that depends if you write it from a different perspective. I love John. I think the book's fantastic, and it's great to read something that is actually at that time obviously the truth. Obviously now is a little bit different to how things may work, but I mean he's telling a few home truths there, which is good.
How many years would it have to take for someone of your era to tell those sorts of home truths?
I don't know, but I'm not writing a book.
No?
Two
Would you
reasons.
not just speak a book and let someone else
Audio
write it
book?
down?
No.
I'd listen to it.
No. Two reasons. I'm not vain enough to write a book, and if I did write a book, I'd end up in a lot of lawsuits, I think.
Fair reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair reasons. Right, shall we quickfire?
Yeah, very, very quickly, I think, because we've got to let you go. But
Well, I mean,
really
that's-
appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're very
So,
welcome.
the first one we normally ask, in case you need a minute to think about it, kind of defeating the point of quickfire.
Yes.
Which 3 people, dead or alive, would you invite to a dinner party?
Well, I'd invite my wife and my daughter.
Oh.
Both
So you
alive.
need one more now. So essentially, who would you invite round to your house
Okay,
for dinner then?
everyone's going to think that you're going to be invite a superstar, blah blah blah. I'd invite one of my best friends that passed away racing years ago, Craig Jones.
Oh, brilliant.
Good answer.
Yeah, that's a nice answer. Mac Polanski, fan, wants to know which track not currently on the calendar would you like to go to?
Pardon?
Which track not currently on the calendar would you like to race at still?
On a MotoGP bike.
Yep.
Brno.
Hmm?
Because it's not on the calendar anymore, and I think it's
Okay.
a great circuit.
Yeah.
That wasn't on the calendar in the last 3 years.
Okay, Alton Park.
Oh yeah,
Good
yeah.
answer.
Because none of these lot have a clue
No, no.
what was going
Yeah.
on.
Shell Oil's hairpin.
Yeah.
Well-
So, hey Mike Falcone, his question was, who helped you get to where you are that we don't know about?
Ooh.
Is there anyone sort of...
Yeah, many people. Whether it be sponsors I had since I was young. The problem is with a question like that is if you answer it, you always answer it wrong because you're not saying about another person.
Yeah.
So I would never do that. But I would say sponsors when I was young. Obviously, my dad and my wife Lucy. But I think as much as I managed myself the last years of my career from 2015 to now would be Bobby Moore, because before that was Bob Moore, who's the manager of Brad Binder, people like that, because I think we made the right decisions together. And I was with him from World Sport, when I bounced them championships, we just went for it, and I think we made the right choices together.
Cool. Cheeky McFly wants to know which day in your life would you like to relive? Not to change anything, just to experience it again.
Well, I would talk about motorcycles because obviously if we talk about my home stuff, I could say every day with my daughter or with Luce. So I mean, racing wise, I'd like to relive the Australian one again.
I thought
Australian
about
Grand
that.
Prix.
Yeah. Great.
So finally, Team Japan GP's question was, what is your personal or professional motto, or what would it be if we had to force you to choose one? What do you kind of
It's
fall
not really
back
quick fire, are they?
on? I know, I think
Well, the answers are short, but the thinking about it isn't. Sometimes.
Motto.
See, I think after everything we've heard, you're the complete antithesis of actually having a motto. I don't think you'd have one.
No, because I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't mean that.
I mean, no, I think
I
that's
don't mean
a
that
great
bad.
motto
I think
in a
that,
positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be something really bad, you know. Yeah, I can't really give you one, and that's disappointing.
Nah, don't worry.
Okay, if I said a word, I would say determined.
Nice.
So
That's good.
Cool. Awesome. You weren't going to have that tattooed around you or anything like that, though, no?
no,
Not quite.
that wasn't me.
Cal, thank you so much. Really
You're very
appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for listening then, guys, or watching if you are. Hope you enjoyed it. I think it's good chat with Cal. I certainly enjoyed.
We do say this after every episode.
Yeah.
But I hope you
enjoyed it
also
so
do.
much.
Yeah, but I hope you guys also do feel that you enjoy every episode as well. I suppose you do if you keep coming back anyway.
Also, we do genuinely mean it. It's not circus chat. We did
Yeah.
enjoy it a lot. So,
Yeah.
good stuff. Let us know what your thoughts are on the question of the week. Obviously, we gave you in the intro. Do you think, other people's opinions, do they affect you? Should they affect you? Being true to yourself, that kind of vibe. I think it's just really interesting. And as always, it's the hashtag MotoGP podcast.
Yeah, use that on Twitter. I do see some people sending their questions in. I'll be honest, it's been a little bit hectic lately with all our schedules, so
We're
we've not had
sorry.
time to really sift through them. We can't promise we'll do it before the next episode we're recording, which is actually a week from this one in San Marino. But we will get to them at some point
Yeah, we
before
will, we
the
promise.
final ones. And
So yeah, let us
Yes.
know. Comments, questions, anything. Maybe we'll switch up some of the quick fires if you've got any good suggestions for those as well. But yeah, great stuff.
see you next time.
Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.